This podcast is sponsored in part by Benjamin Hart.
That's me!
And yours truly, Zach Arnold.
And by participation from listeners like you. So let's tune in to another episode of
IPC.
IPC.
I told you I was going to win.
With Windows 11.
IPC.
IPC.
IPC. The Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast.
All the galaxies.
All for you.
Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the IPC podcast, broadcasting live right here on Facebook Live and YouTube. And I'm sorry, I can't really get through this, all right? I can't, all right? I can't contain myself, okay? Because something has happened. He's back. He's back! Ladies and gentlemen, he has returned. Somehow, Zach Arnold has returned. Welcome back, my friend.
Did you miss me? I missed you
The
guys.
answer is yes. The answer is very much yes.
Oh my gosh, so much has happened in the last couple of months, and I know that you guys have covered a lot as well, and I'm hoping not to rehash stuff too much because there are a few things that I have just recently seen that you guys have done reviews on. And so, I want to get caught up with you guys personally in the chat. I want to get caught up with you, Ben, and find out what the most exciting thing about the fall season has been. We're going to cover a few of those tonight with things like the trailer for No Way Home that has everybody talking on the internet and stuff. I mean, this has been a crazy fall, not just for movies and TV, but for me personally as well. For those of you who don't know, the reason I was away is because I was doing a side hustle of sorts, and I was doing football broadcasts every Friday night for the last 10 or 11 weeks. And so it's been kind of crazy going to the playoffs and getting some really nice, awesome sponsorships and stuff like that to help cover the costs of it. And over the course of the 2021 season, we played 11 games, if you include the playoff game that we had. So we had 10 regular season games and a playoff game. We finished with 6,452 listens over the course of those 11 games, which gives us an average of, I want to say, almost 587 listens per game, which is way higher than what our numbers were a season ago, 68% higher than the listenership we had a year ago. So there was just a ton of growth.
Amazing.
There was a ton of excitement. My dad was helping me on the broadcast, and so we had some really great family time stuff, and so just a lot of adventures. But I'm excited to adventure back into the sci-fi and pop culture world with you guys, because this is something that's been a part of me since 2014, and to have these breaks every fall, it crushes me, but it also excites me when I get to come back.
Yeah, it's been fun without you. I will admit we've had some great guest hosts that have taken your place and have done an amazing job, and thanks to everyone.
They have
Chad, Joel, Steven, so many awesome people.
Everybody that has stepped in my stead as a rock star, because I'm not
Jesse Bennett. How can I forget?
I'm not knocking on Jake, but one of these years when I did this, Jake was kind of our third member of the team, and so we were able to have 2 out of 3 even when I had to step away. And then you had to carry the load this fall, and I don't have the words to thank you properly for setting that up and for communicating with the Phantom Empire team to get everything good to go every couple of weeks to keep pumping out quality stuff even while I'm away. It's a testament that the show must go on, and you guys epitomize that for the last several months. But I'm very, very excited to be back.
Well, Like, thank you very much for that. And thanks for coming back. Thanks for I'm so excited for like what you're doing with your day job, all that stuff. Just amazing. I see the broadcast and I'm like, man, that's awesome. And hearing all the stats, great,
Mhm.
incredible stuff. You're doing some important stuff, and I couldn't be prouder. But it's good to have you back, and we've got a lot to catch up on because some things that even while you were gone, we haven't had a chance to actually discuss in detail. We've gotten to some pretty interesting topics, but there's a lot happening if you didn't already know. And we got a new Spider-Man trailer. We got some new Marvel movies, like 3 of them since we last spoke. And it's been a lot. So how we were going to do this, we're like, okay, there's so much. How do we tackle it all? And we're like, why don't we just do it rapid fire? Why don't we just try to tackle it all? Just get it all in one episode. We'll just catch up, and then next week we'll be caught up and we'll be fine. So that's kind of what we're going to do tonight, is do that. And we'll try to explain like how we're going to do this. It's going to be interesting. And it's going to put the pressure on us.
Yeah. So normally an IPC program has one topic, maybe 2, and we take our time, dissecting it and breaking it apart and looking at as many different aspects as we can. And those are always really great episodes. But like you said, there's a lot to discuss, and you can kind of see in the background, one of the big things to talk about is the return of the Spinosaurus. I haven't seen that beauty in 20 years. And we got a really, really great couple of shots in the Camp Cretaceous Season 4 trailer that dropped not too long ago. So that's going to be a topic of conversation this evening as well. But I'm looking at our show notes and I'm counting, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 topics minimum, possibly 11, depending on how much time we've got. If we tried to devote like 2 hours to every discussion like we usually do, we're never getting through this. So
we're going to be here literally all night, which I wouldn't have a problem with normally speaking, but I got to sleep tonight.
Yeah, I do too. I got stuff to do tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to set 10-minute timers for each conversation piece. 10 minutes flat. That's all we've got. When we hit like 9 minutes, we're going to jump into like our concluding thoughts, our final, the last little zingers that we want to get into. And that's it. That's the end of it. I've seen talk shows that do this. I've seen like sport debate shows, even when you're doing like regular, presidential debates and stuff. They've got timers for how long they can give their responses, and they've got timers for how long each topic is going to be. So we're going to try what we're calling a rapid fire discussion. A lot of other podcasts and other YouTube shows will do these rapid fire discussions, and they only give you like 5 minutes to talk about it. We're going to try and stretch it out to 10, see how that goes, and then maybe we'll go from there. But as Joel is alluding to in the chat, he's like, get to the Spider-Man talk, get to the Spider-Man talk. And then he's like, wait, only 10 minutes to talk about Spider-Man? Well, Joel, imagine how I must feel because I'm having to share time with this guy over here, so I only get 5 minutes out of that 10.
5 minutes per person.
Basically. I mean, well, we'll have a dialogue, obviously, but the entire conversation is just 10 minutes. And we'll go from Spider-Man to something else, and then from that to something else. And we'll see how far we can go before we're like, all right, we're done. We got to call it a night. So if you want to follow along while you're listening, or if you're watching live, we're going to set timers. We'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and then we'll go, and then we'll start talking about the conversation. So if there's something that, has spoilers in it that you don't want to hear spoilers about, you'll know exactly how far to skip. You'll skip exactly 10 minutes from whatever this point is, and it'll be like, okay, they're done talking about it, so now it's time for the next piece. So I think it's really great for like show structure, because if, say, we're talking about the Eternals and somebody hasn't seen the Eternals, all you got to do is fast forward 10 minutes. Or if you're watching live, you just got to mute it for 10 minutes, and then, the timer goes off, boom, on to the next conversation. So we'll see how this goes. But Spider-Man is the first topic of conversation. Ben, if you've got your timer, your stopwatch on your phone ready to go,
yep.
I've got mine. So we'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. We'll hit start on 1, and we'll just see how much Spider-Man we can cover in 10 minutes. Are you ready?
I'm beyond ready.
Oh man, I'm so ready. 3, 2, 1. All right, we got 10 minutes to talk about what is quite possibly one of the most amazing trailers in the last 10 years. It had so much going on in it from multiple universes. You get stuff from the Tobey Maguire universe with Dr. Octavius giving you
Exactly.
his full name, and Tom Holland and Zendaya just laughing at it. It's like, no, really. What's your real name? Come on, be honest with me. But then you see Sandman, you see Electro, you see the Green Goblin, you see Doctor Strange possibly turning into like almost a I wouldn't say a villain of sorts, but he's definitely got some antagonistic tendencies that almost seem to imply that the way to fix this universe and send them all back to their universes is to what? Kill Spider-Man? Like, so much to unpack from this. Where do you start, man?
I don't know. And it's like there's so much in this trailer. They did show us a lot. They showed us pretty much, we're assuming, all the villains, but there's so much other stuff that's like been rumored and leaked, and I won't get into that in case you haven't heard those leaks. But it seems like this is just the tip of the iceberg. This trailer was enough. There's a movie in this trailer, and like if there's more, I can't even imagine what this movie's actually going to be like. But getting kind of the full-on confirmation of all the villains, we got Jamie Foxx back as Electro, we got seemingly Thomas Hayden Church as the Sandman, we got the other guy as Lizard, we got obviously Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin, and then of course the legendary Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus. Just like an all-star cast, and then it's like, oh yeah, maybe there's some other stuff happening. Like, what? This is enough. We got almost a Sinister Six here. Like, this is crazy.
Okay, that's the thing I wanted to touch on, because I only counted 5 villains. But one of the biggest trends in Spider-Man, particularly in the comics, is a fight against a group called the Sinister Six. We only have 5 out of the 6. So, is there another one hidden away somewhere that maybe we just haven't seen in the trailers yet? Here's the deal. Have you seen the new trailer for Morbius from the Sony Marvel Universe?
Nope.
Okay. For those of you who have seen it, you know exactly where I'm going with this. Unfortunately, I can't spoil it for Ben. I promised not to cover spoilers that that he hasn't been spoiled to yet.
I don't care. So if you're just worried about me, spoil away.
Okay. Michael Keaton's in the Morbius trailer.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Keaton's in the Morbius trailer, which is mind-boggling for me personally. Like, there's so many things about that I would want to talk about. But I think it's very possible to see the Vulture return in this movie, and they're just keeping him hidden away. And the reason why we see him in the Morbius trailer is because he ends up there as a result of what happens in this film.
Yeah.
That is part of my speculation. The people that are in this universe, that are part of the MCU storylines, that are attached to Spider-Man, will end up in Sony's Marvel universe by the end of the film.
Yeah, it's quite possible. And then I don't want to give away, I haven't seen Venom 2, but I know some spoilers.
Yep.
And there's also stuff going on with Venom, and you're like, could he show up? You know, we could have the return of the Vulture, we could have Venom. There's many different possibilities here of villains that could show up. And then I think what is Scorpion? He was set up in Homecoming, like he's still out there. Mysterio probably is still out there. Like, we could have literally like all the villains.
We could have like
universe show up.
We could have everybody show up. And here's the other thing that I heard too, is that due to COVID and certain delays and such, Doctor Strange was actually supposed to come out before this movie.
Really?
That was something that I heard, I think from Deadline, that the order of the films was supposed to be Multiverse of Madness first, and then Spider-Man. But because of certain delays and reshoots that they had to do, they ended up moving up the Spider-Man project by a couple of months so that you would get some kind of Christmas content. They knew Doctor Strange wasn't going to be ready by Christmas, but they knew that Spider-Man would be. So I'm really, really curious to see what kind of stuff is theoretically attached to the events of Multiverse of Madness, because I feel like these are going to be two-parters. I feel like there are going to be repercussions from one that end up affecting the other, because they're currently reshooting Multiverse of Madness with Benedict Cumberbatch, like as we speak. So I feel like some of those reshoots are due to COVID delays, but I feel like some of them are also as a way of kind of retweaking the storyline in order to conform to the events of No Way Home.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how, because I feel like they're kind of creating this multiverse arc that started in Loki, and now we're going on into No Way Home. Well, I mean, kind of. I mean, you could even say it kind of went back to WandaVision, some of those teases.
Right.
But then going further into Multiverse of Madness, where Wanda's going to come back, possibly. No, definitely, she's in the movie. We know that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Elizabeth Olsen's already been cast in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, she's like thing. So like, I'm curious, like, if what you're saying is accurate, like, and I've heard that too, that they could be like reshooting it to fix kind of some things and kind of reshape Multiverse of Madness to fit in with the new timeline, and whatever outcome this is. And I'm thinking maybe kind of the crux of this movie is that like he's helping Spider-Man, and then he gets like sucked into a portal and like goes on a multiverse adventure, and Spider-Man has to figure this stuff out on his own. And then we pick up with Strange later, doing his Multiverse of Madness thing. So there's so much, and then the future, who knows what's going to happen.
Apparently Peter's wish that people would forget he's Spider-Man created some sort of fissure in the multiverse. And the problem currently in this film is that there are villains and visitors from the multiverse showing up in their universe. But I think what could happen in Doctor Strange is something very much like the Magician's Nephew from the Chronicles of Narnia, where like Strange becomes the one teleporting into other realities. And so this one, you're getting visitors in the Marvel universe. In Multiverse of Madness, Strange is the visitor in other universes.
Yeah, I think that I am picturing Multiverse of Madness being like this just not globetrotting, but multiverse trotting movie where you're just jumping dimension after dimension after dimension, visiting all these strange new things, which I'm so excited for. But I think Spider-Man is going to be more about like, getting all this kind of like this Spider-Man centric stuff, multiverse stuff just coming together. And they're calling this Spider-Man Endgame. Like that's what they're behind the scenes calling this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big deal. And also they're kind of talking about it as kind of the end of the trilogy. So like you could have some major deaths scenes in here. Who knows? Well, obviously they're teasing MJ possibly dying. I don't think that's going to happen, but it might. Who knows?
So here's the speculation among my circles with that particular fall. And I want to see what you think about this, because we're at 8 minutes now. So we got 2 minutes to kind of wrap up this conversation. I know, right? It's crazy how fast time flies when you're having fun. But there is a theory going around that it is not Tom Holland's hand that is reaching out to save her in the final cut of that trailer. Thoughts on that?
I've heard some rumblings. I've heard some things about maybe possibly another Spider-Man swooping in to save the day, perhaps doing the thing that he couldn't do in another movie, couldn't save that other person.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's a lot.
There's like a redemption of it. There's also like the nostalgia attached to it. Dude, there is so much nostalgia attached to this, because my girlfriend Edna and I watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 1 the other day, just because we were getting so excited about Green Goblin and all these other returning characters. I swear to God, dude, there is more cheese in that movie than the state of Wisconsin.
Oh man, they're like early 2000s movies, like straight up. There's no denying it.
The way they're bringing all of this together is going to make those movies go from cheesy to awesome. they're going to find a way to tie it all together and just make it a amazing experience. And I'm here for all of it.
And like the joke with like Otto Octavius saying, "I'm Otto Octavius," like, "Oh, good, what's your real name?" Like that's just like the the crashing of like the cheesiness versus like the kind of pseudo seriousness of like the MCU trying like, "Oh, we try to take this stuff seriously." Nah, this is ridiculous stuff.
It's ridiculous, but also ridiculously exciting. We're at 10 minutes.
There it is.
We promised 10 minutes was it for our rapid fire discussion. Long story short, I'm excited for this movie. I am buying tickets like opening night, like that Thursday. I am like packing to go out of town that Friday. And I'm already making plans with my people that we're going to pause the packing process and go watch that movie that Thursday night and then come back. So like this is a top priority for me next month. I'm very excited.
Oh yeah, this is going to be like I managed to see Far From Home on opening day a few years ago. I'm hoping I can manage that again because that was amazing. And this movie's like, you're going to want to see it on the first day because it's going to get spoiled the crap out of online. You're just going to want to stay off online.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be so much stuff. There's already stuff everywhere online.
When Thursday hits, you got to like go into hiding until you see the movie because it will get spoiled for you.
Stay off Twitter, stay off YouTube, stay off all the come to YouTube to watch our show, but like everything else.
Stay off of literally everything. Like
bookmark our channel, bookmark Fandom Empire, and just come here and don't go anywhere else.
Right, because we're pretty good about spoiler-free reviews and initial impressions and stuff, but there's a lot of places that aren't. So, all right, time to hit the reset button on the 10-minute timer. Yeah. We're on to our next topic for the evening, and that is actually one that has been discussed here on the IPC podcast, but is not one that I have gotten to discuss.
Well, we didn't get into it much. I haven't talked about it much. Okay. And I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this probably just as much as you have. So I think this is going to be, and maybe we'll come back to this. I think any of these discussions, we might come back to them. If you guys really want us to do like a full on discussion, yes. But this is a good way for us to kind of skip through these things and go through. We might even do this in the future because there's always news and there's always a million things happening at once. So like this is a great kind of test run for this new concept.
Absolutely. But fair warning, from here on out, this is a spoiler alert. Like, we're going to be doing full-on spoilers about Shang-Chi. We're going to be doing full-on spoilers about the Eternals. I may even give a couple of spoilers about Ghostbusters Afterlife if we get to talk about it, because there's just so much in that movie to unpack as well. So I'm just saying it now so I don't have to say it again. Spoiler alert.
Once the timer starts, just skip ahead or set your own timer and then come back if you're watching live. I think this works pretty well.
Yep. All right. 10 minutes on the timer. Are you good to go?
Ready.
I got your message. I just haven't been able to multitask well enough to be able to respond. But you seem good for now.
I'm okay. Okay. Full disclosure. I usually set up my internet correctly. It's wired. I'm on Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not good. Okay. Yeah. So if I start like acting up people in the chat, if you see me like going like all pixelated, let me know. Put some top hats down there. That's the international sign for Ben's internet is going crappy. So if it starts going weird, just like I'll step away for like a minute and just like fix it. I'm gonna go with it right now though.
Well, hopefully it'll last, but we'll see. All right. 10 minutes on the clock for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in 3, 2, 1. Okay. This is one of those movies that I really didn't have like a whole lot of expectations for. I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know a whole lot about the characters. I knew that there was going to be like an epic bus scene.
Right.
And I knew that there would be like a particular cameo from something way, way back. But other than that, I really didn't know what to expect from this movie. And I was pleasantly surprised by the entertainment factor. Yeah. It didn't necessarily have the type of stakes that you've come to expect from a traditional Marvel movie. And it didn't have like a broad scope like we've come to expect from things like Infinity War and Endgame. Like even Guardians of the Galaxy has gotten to have like a really, really big scope these days.
Yeah.
But this one is more localized, and I really hate to do anything in the lines of like racial stereotyping, but it's very, the tone and the isolation to me is actually very similar to Black Panther. And I don't mean to say that in a racial
No,
stereotypes.
I think this is
Writing.
Black
It's
Panther for
storytelling.
Asians. I think that's completely fair. I think that's the reactions from Asian people that I've seen online has been that they're like, this is our movie, like this is
Right.
great.
Right. It's about representation. It's about culture. It's about history. It's about all of these things that has really been lacking outside of, Wong being Benedict Cumberbatch's co-star. Like outside of that, there really hasn't been a whole lot. And then you get all of it in this movie. And you get some really, really great cast members. Like Awkwafina crushes it in this
She's
movie.
great. She's
Okay.
so good.
I really, the only other thing that I had ever seen from Awkwafina, I didn't really know her content before Raya and the Last Dragon. That was about it. I didn't really know much about her, but the way that she carries herself as like the co-star / comedic relief in this film is awesome. She does a really, really great job of giving you heart when you need heart and giving you a laugh when you need a laugh. Like she really helps balance out this movie in ways that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. And it's funny to kind of oppose you on this. Like I had massive expectations.
Oh,
for this movie
okay.
going in. Like
Okay.
I was
You're gonna like
super-
critique Awkwafina there for a second, and I was like,
no,
what?
I hate Awkwafina. No, it's not like that. It's not like that.
I'm more of a Zani person, anyways.
Right, exactly. But I had like huge expectations. This was one of the movies that I was looking forward to the most this year. And I think it really lived up to it. Like it's really strong, especially as a kind of a first movie, first standalone movie. It's connected to the MCU. There are obvious connections, but it's not trying to hit you over the head with it. It's basically telling its own story. Yes, it's trying to kind of deal with some baggage. It's trying to fix some of the previous mistakes with the Mandarin and the Iron Man 3 debacle. I think they handle it very well. And I think I love the bringing back Sir Ben Kingsley as Pat Slattery and, Trevor. Like, that was great. I loved him in this. I love the martial arts aspect. The bus scene is amazing. I just recently it's on Disney Plus now.
Yep.
I'm back and just watched that scene again. And then I ended up watching like a good chunk of the rest of the movie because it's great. But like the bus scene, go ahead.
No. I was just saying that's how I watched it. Was I didn't see it in theaters, but as soon as it was free on Disney Plus, I was like,
the bus scene is great. The whole. I'm lagging, I think.
Are we talking over ourselves?
I think after this, I will fix. I think after this, once I'm done, I will fix my internet. Okay. But I'm gonna finish this thought. So the bus scene is great. Getting into like the scaffolding in the big skyscraper is great. That whole scene is wonderful. I'm not as even though like I love that like they just go full bore into the fantastical elements. We have two dragons, and it's just crazy at the end. Like I love that they do that. I'm not as invested in that personally. I'm not. The movie kind of loses its luster for me personally, but I think it's still really strong in what it does, and with the 10 rings and all this kind of stuff, and making Wenwu this really kind of complicated villain. I think one of the best villains we've gotten in the MCU so far. It's a really fun movie. It's a really fun movie.
It really is. And like I said, the entertainment factor is really, really high in this film, from the action sequences to the types of adventures that you go on to the Iron Man 3 plot twist. There's a lot of different elements that on their own individually may feel kind of jarring, but somehow they were able to blend them together in a way that didn't feel forced, that didn't feel like it was trying to do any kind of stereotyping or conform to any kind of trope. Like it was just very respectful, looking at people's ancestry and looking at the way that they used to perform combat, looking at the way internet trends work, people being on their phones constantly, and that bus fight scene going viral, and all of a sudden Shang-Chi goes from being a valet to being famous on YouTube under the moniker Busboy. There's just a lot of really, really great components that find a way to blend together and make for a really fun film. And so I don't really have very many like critiques or complaints about this movie because everything that they kind of set themselves out to do, they accomplished. And they had enough out there to find a way to tie them into the Avengers without having to like address the Avengers directly. The only thing they really mentioned is all of the people that are able to come back from the snap. You know, there are some repercussions from Endgame, but it's not like you have to go watch Endgame in order to enjoy and appreciate this film. You know,
I think this is a good introductory film for the MCU. I think someone could watch this and for their first MCU film ever and still get a lot out of it.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, the representation, the action, the comedic relief, all the different components that you need in order to carry any movie, really, like any action movie, any adventure film. You need to have a good star and co-star, and they had that with Simu Liu and Aquafina.
Yeah.
You need good sets, and they had that with, like you said, the skyscraper and Talo, I think is what they call it. The mystical area. You know, they do that with all of these different things, and it makes for a solid film. What's funny is the 10 Rings don't really play as big of a role as I thought they would. And you know, they still serve their purpose, and there's some pretty cool like close combat scenes towards the end of the film, but it's not like the 10 Rings make or break this movie. It's the characters that make this movie. And I think that's one of the things I really respect about it.
Yeah, it's the 10 Rings, I mean, obviously it's a big part of his father's story, but you know, it's not until the end when he gets them. I wasn't even sure he was going to get him. You know, I think he's Shang-Chi as a character seems pretty off without the rings too. Like he's pretty powerful as is. He can take care of himself. He doesn't necessarily need them, but you know, setting it up and getting the Carol Danvers and Hulk, which is he's not Hulk anymore for some reason. Cameo, very you know, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, like I did appreciate the Danvers appearance and just the kind of introducing the characters from Shang-Chi, introducing them to the Avengers. Like that mid-credit scene was the bridge. And it gives you the possibility of, you know, calling for them and recruiting them into some other film if the need arises. It's entirely possible that we could see them in Multiverse of Madness because Wong is in the Spider-Man trailer, and I have a very strong feeling he's going to be in the Doctor Strange film. Yeah. If they need to, I bet we could see them show back up in Multiverse of Madness. One thing that I see a lot of possibilities for this phase is interconnectivity. I think we're going to see a lot of characters crossing over from one movie to the next, and this could be something that kind of like sets the stage for that.
Yeah, I love that whole fight ring thing. You see extremist soldiers in there. There's Black Widows in there. You got Emil Blonsky. They brought back Abomination, which was crazy. Yeah. Just further, just like, hey, you didn't like the Incredible Hulk movie? Well, too bad. It's canon. And the fact that like Wong, okay, all right, it's the timer's up.
Uh-oh. I thought that was your cat telling you that you needed to eat. I heard this row, and I was like,
thought about the fact it's the Death Star alarm, by the way, but
right.
Like it kind of sounds like a cat. It sounds like a row.
From a distance, I thought it was a cat. I was like, dude, you've got a really talkative cat telling you that it's their dinner time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if I was at home, which I'm not, that would be the case because they'd be like, hey, what are you doing? You did podcasting? No.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for me to eat.
Right. No, that's my family's dog sometimes. Like if my brother's so much as like 10 to 15 minutes late feeding her, like she's got a very strict eating routine apparently. And if he takes too long getting to her, then she starts like grumbling and she'll be like all these weird Wookiee like grunts and stuff telling him, you're late, buddy. But yeah, Shang-Chi, long story short, I enjoyed it, but I think I enjoyed watching it at home with my family more than I would have trying to sit through it in the theater. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's a good at-home movie. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I haven't. I've been to the theater a lot lately, a lot more than I was
Same,
last year, which was
same.
nothing. But no big crowds, thankfully, because I really don't want a big crowd. But I love a packed theater. I love seeing it with people, and so that's what I've been missing, just like seeing it with people and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to showing this to my family because I'm like, it's a kung fu movie. It's a Marvel kung fu movie. This is
Everybody
cool.
kung fu fighting,
Oh boy.
kung
Okay,
fu
so
fast as lightning.
can you possibly? I hate to ask you this. Can you hold down the fort for like 2 minutes?
Oh, the internet problems
I'm
have
gonna go fix it really quick and make this show a whole lot better, hopefully.
fingers crossed you don't lose the stream yards, because I don't know if I'm able to get you back in or not. It may be longer than 2 minutes. Is it possible to like connect the hard wire and like switch internets once it's been attached to the
I
computers?
don't think I will lose connection. I
Okay.
don't.
Okay.
But okay, what do you think though? Gamble? Am I gambling this?
I don't know, but I'm gonna take a look at the chat because we've had a really active chat tonight, and I haven't been giving it enough attention. So
I'll be
I'm gonna
back.
say hello to a few people in the chat while you try and tend to this. So apologies everybody that we haven't been chatting with you as much. But imagine if Andrew Garfield wants to redeem himself for not saving Gwen. If that happens, says Joel, talking about the Spider-Man trailer. That's exactly what we were implying, dude. And I really hope that it comes to pass, because that would be really, really amazing, really heartfelt, almost as heartfelt as some of the stuff that I experienced during Ghostbusters Afterlife last night. Ben's not on the headset, so I can say stuff like that. But oh my gosh, the final scene, so heartfelt. I freaking loved it. And I'm not even a huge fan of the Ghostbusters franchise. So I love heartfelt callbacks that like harken to previous films. And I really, really hope that Garfield does get his chance in this movie. That would be really, really cool. Talking with our friend Jesse, one of our top patrons here on the program. Cinematically, I thought it was a great movie. I'm intrigued to see the incorporation to the greater Marvel universe. Yeah, same, dude. Like that's one of my biggest question marks overall, is because it stood on its own 2 feet so well. Like, how do you incorporate it? Like, is he just gonna show up and be trying to fight Celestials or something? Using the 10 rings, or is the fact that it's such an ancient artifact going to be like a contributing factor? Is it something that was created by Celestials or something? Like, thinking about some of the possible tie-ins to something like Eternals or Multiverse of Madness, there's a lot of different directions they could go as far as the history of the 10 rings is concerned, but it just barely gets touched on. So I feel like they're trying to set stuff up for like a Shang-Chi sequel that's going to focus on like a Indiana Jones type of historical search into the ramifications of the 10 rings, but I don't know where they're going to go with it yet. Toronto Freddy, what's up, boys? He says Shang-Chi was effing amazing. I'm not going to say the whole word because it's a PG-13 podcast, but thanks for showing up, Freddy. Always a pleasure having you around. Visually stunning. Cannot forget Morris. Not forgetting him, dude. We're just on like a rapid fire sequence tonight, just trying to get as much in 10 minutes as we can. And sometimes stuff kind of goes by the wayside. It's not that we're forgetting. It's just we're not doing the whole 2-hour discussions tonight. We're doing 10 minutes at a time. It was awesome watching it in the theater. Freddie, you've got a different perspective though, man, because Toronto and Canada in general is a lot tighter as far as like capacity restrictions and how open the community is compared to Texas. Like straight up, I'm gonna be honest. Texas is probably like the most open region in the States. And if you look at our statistics, that statement kind of backs itself up. Just looking at some of the CDC numbers, it's not an ideal situation, but we have seen recent declines, like in the last week or two, which I am encouraged by. But overall, there's very few places left in Texas anymore that have any kind of mask restrictions, that have any kind of, vaccine requirements. There are a few businesses that will inquire about it, but like my business doesn't. And so it's a very interesting time that we're living in, trying to decide, is it safe enough to go back to the movies? Is it safe enough to be out in public without a mask on? Some people say yes, some people say no. Some counties, even like Dallas County, is saying no, it's not safe enough yet, and they're like requiring masks in the city of Dallas, but not in other places. And so there's just a lot of debate and a lot of questions about capacity. And I think local movie theaters are still kind of showcasing that, because I went to go see Ghostbusters Afterlife in the theaters on opening night last night. And it was a theater that it was an IMAX theater that could hold maybe 150, 200 people. And there were maybe 15 to 20. And I was genuinely surprised at how low it was for opening night. I was like, this is not what I expected for a movie that was this anticipated. But I do expect Spider-Man to have way higher capacities. Like, I think you said on social media, Ben, that this is probably the most anticipated pop culture movie since The Force Awakens. I mean, I think Endgame would probably be a pretty close competition to that, but I'm up there with you. It's like a top 3 most anticipated movie of the decade, and so I think that is when we're going to see a lot more fuller movie theaters. I think that's going to happen next month.
Yeah, it's No Way Home, I think, is going to be like the thing. Other people, I'm not the first person to say this. That it's probably the first film post-pandemic, we're still in the pandemic, to make $1 billion. Like, that seems the likely scenario.
Well, I mean,
it's just there's so much hype,
and look at how a so film like The Eternals has done worldwide. It's made over 300 million in its first week, 2 weeks, something like that. Like,
it's the first Rotten Tomatoes movie.
I'm still trying to decide how I feel about this movie, and I guess this is, if you're good with it, this is a good time to go into our third rapid fire discussion. Will be The Eternals. 10 minutes on the clock for this one, because the financial numbers don't seem to back it up, but I'm not going to do too many spoilers yet. Okay, for those of you that haven't seen it yet, you can fast forward 10 minutes in just a second here. In 3, 2, 1. All right, 10 minutes on the clock. Eternals. I'm going to let you lead off, dude, because I really am still unsure about how I want to feel about this movie.
It's funny. I went into this movie having no expectations and no hype for it. I didn't know anything about these characters. And I was like, they're making an Turtles movie. I don't know what this is. And I'm really not that excited for it. Like, I even thought about, especially after starting to hear some of the reviews, I'm like, do I even want to bother seeing this in a theater? Maybe I'll just wait for it to come on Disney Plus. And then, of course, the reviews kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and they weren't very good. And I don't just talk about critics reviews. I talk about personal reviews of people that I know that have seen the movie. And that's the one here that, whoever has seen it, if I hear, I think, communicate a lot about movies. You've told me, don't go see that movie. I'm like, okay, I won't. And that's basically how it works. So I trust my friends, and I heard a lot of my friends go, it's not good. So I'm like, okay. And then I went to see it. And I'm like, I like this. I actually I really enjoyed it. And the more I think about it, the more I enjoy it for some reason. And I'm not saying this is anywhere near this isn't even probably not going to crack my top 10 Marvel movies of all time. It's down on the list, but I did enjoy it for what it was. I think it's a movie that, yes, it's overstuffed. There is just long scenes of just plot and exposition just being told to you and thrown at your face. I saw that.
No. You saw nothing.
All right. I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything. On Castbox, you especially didn't see my girlfriend walking behind the camera there.
But you know, it's a lot to take in. It's 2 hours and 37 minutes. A long movie. It feels long.
It's so much.
But there is some very interesting things. I like what they do with the characters. I like that they were very bold with, like, you know, yes, it's cliche to, like, okay, they were the bad guys all along and they were setting up to do bad things, but like I didn't see the Icarus twist coming. I didn't see that coming at all for some reason.
I saw it a mile away.
See, that's the difference between you and me. That's the difference. I was oblivious. So, you know, that's the thing that, like, I kind of seem in, like, they're doing something. And also the fact that the characters died. I'm thinking, like, Eternals, they're going to be immortal. They can't die. And the fact that you get several of them die, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That actually raises stakes. Like, there were some scenes where, like, this character could die because I've seen other characters die. I've seen other Eternals die. That raises stakes for me personally. But I know that's not the case for everyone, so I'm going to stop talking now.
I think I had a problem with the stakes because they were kind of all over the place. You know, right now in this moment, like in the present day, the stakes are high enough that an Eternal could die. But over the course of human history, that's never been the case. You know, we see so many different pieces of human existence and some of the worst pieces of humanity, the genocides that happened in Central and South America, and, you know, some of the wars that happened, and the construction of Babylon. All of these had the potential to have really high stakes, and you never lose anyone. And then all of a sudden you get to the year, 2020, and suddenly that's enough? Like how is, like, this any different from anything that's happened over the previous 7,000 years of their time here? And they kind of glossed over the whole, why didn't you intervene during anything else? Like, it was like one or two sentences, like, oh no, we're not supposed to intervene unless deviants are involved. Like, that's kind of like it's to me reminded me of Star Trek's Prime Directive, where you don't interfere with the affairs of inferior cultures until you learn that they have warp capability, that they can go faster than light speed. And that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, the morality of these eternal beings should supersede, you know, the cause and effect of what's going to happen to this civilization. And you see certain characters that want to be a part of it, like Cersei, who finally decides, you know, the extermination of a planet is not worth it for our end goals. But then Icarus is like, yeah, it is. And so some of it was just tropey. Some of it had really, really weird and just stakes that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And these stakes were over, like, the fate of planet Earth, like the planet itself, because somehow, some way, the Earth is actually just a giant freaking egg. Like, it's an incubator. That's all it's supposed to be. Like, planet Earth is so much more than that. And I don't know. I guess there were just a lot of pieces of it that frustrated me more than encouraged me. There's a lot of people in the chat that are talking about how it's not a Marvel film, but that's what I like about it. Honestly, that's kind of what I don't like about it. And I appreciate that they tried to do something different. I really do. I appreciate that it wasn't just another action comedy flick. Like, they tried to provide a serious tone. They tried to do world building. They tried to do character development. They tried love interests. They had a homosexual marriage showcased in there.
Mhm.
They had their first sex scene in Marvel history. Like, there's a lot of pretty groundbreaking stuff that happens in this movie. I just don't feel like it was executed as well as it could have been. And I'm not trying to say that I could do better than Chloe Zhao. She's an Academy Award-winning director. I'm not saying I could do better, and this is why I'm so torn on this movie, because I know for a fact I could not make this movie better than she did. But I also know that there are just some plot things, some execution things, some pacing things that it just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I don't have great tangible ways to say it because I've only seen the movie once. But
Yeah.
as far as Marvel movies are concerned, it's kind of probably in the bottom 5, the bottom 10 for me. The rewatchability factor for me is so incredibly low. I'm not a big fan of this film. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think the nature of this movie being so different, and being that it's like you're saying, it's not an action comedy per se. It's more of a more cerebral, it's slower paced. There's not as much comedy. It's not as much action either. It is more about kind of I don't know, the human experience is more about, examining humanity, all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It's not going to hit home with everyone. And also, it's very convoluted. Like, it's very like, there's like, they spend a long time like setting up and like explaining, here's the Eternals, here's the Deviants, here's all this stuff. And then they spend another 20 minutes like explaining, okay, here's what's really going on. Like, the Deviants were created by the Celestials, and then they had to create the Eternals to fight the Deviants. Oh, that was a big whoopsie. But yeah, the Earth's a big egg, and we got to do this all stuff. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. I barely kind of grasp it myself as a Marvel fan, as person who is kind of smart and could do it. I can only imagine someone just walking in this movie, never seeing a Marvel thing before, going like, "Whoa, okay, I can't compute this. This is too much."
It's super convoluted. It reminded me a little too much of the Inhumans storyline.
Well, that's not a good thing to be reminded of.
There's a lot of Inhumans vibes from the stuff that I saw here, particularly some of the some of the giant creatures and some of the uniforms and the costumes and the stakes and the character interactions, and even having Game of Thrones alumni in the show. You had Game of Thrones alumni in the Eternals, and now you've got them in the Inhumans, and now you've got them in the Eternals as well.
That is crazy.
The mid credits and post credits were the things that intrigued me the most, to be honest. Like, that was the part that really hooked me in and made me realize it could have some deeper connections to the rest of the MCU. But I had to suffer through 2.5 hours of that stuff before I saw the interesting stuff in the credits. Like, all I really needed were the credit scenes to set up the scope for the rest of the MCU. I don't feel like I needed 2.5 hours of everything else.
Yeah, I feel you. It definitely, I'm very intrigued by like what Dane Whitman's doing. The fact that freaking Blade was at the end of the movie, like, that's a whole.
That's
here.
Yeah, you're here. You just kind of cut out on me for a second there. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk over you.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, like, those were the things that intrigued me the most, and those are the things that it took the longest to unfold. And so it's a very slow burn. It's very complicated, and it wasn't for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's the nature of it. But hopefully this upcoming Spider-Man movie is going to be for everyone. I hope it's not controversial.
You enjoyed it, by the way. I am not trying to knock anybody else's experience of it. I just personally did not resonate with it the way other people have.
I am in the minority here. I am totally like, the amount of people that I've seen like trash this movie have been so many. Like, the fact that I enjoyed it, I think I enjoyed it simply because I had such low expectations. I was like, this is going to be okay at best. And then I was like, oh, that was all right. Okay, I enjoyed that. So I think my expectations, when I go in with high expectations, that's when I'm going to get disappointed. If I went in like, oh, this is going to be incredible, it wouldn't have worked out.
See, and I had no expectations for this movie, but I also had no expectations for Shang-Chi. And I feel like Shang-Chi executed better than the Eternals did.
Shang-Chi is the better movie at it. This one, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Okay, well let's get excited for something again, like something that we can both nerd out and geek out about. It's the main topic that's on our background photo behind us there, and I honest to God don't know how we're gonna get this in 10 minutes, but it's the new trailer for the new season of Camp Cretaceous season 4 coming out in just 2 weeks. Can you believe that? It's
insane.
Today's the 19th, and it debuts on December the 3rd. So 2 weeks from today, we're going to get a whole lot of answers. But right now, we get to do a whole lot of speculation. So 10 minutes on the timer. I'm ready when you are.
Yep. Let's go.
All right. In 3, 2, and 1. So they finally make it off the island. They finally start celebrating that Ila Nublar is behind them. You start thinking, what's next for Camp Cretaceous if they've spent 3 seasons on this island and they're no longer on this island anymore? What do? Oh, well, here's a great idea. Switch islands.
It's like, oh, they're going home. No, they're not.
Psych! And here's the thing that's got me the most psyched. Somebody wrote Colin Trevorrow during the initial responses to season 3, and they asked him, what's your favorite episode of the series? And he said, it's in the next season.
Yeah, I heard this. I'm like, what does that mean?
That is the part that gets me excited, because that means there's something in here so exciting that the executive producer and the director of the 2015 movie thinks is the best part of this show. It's happening in this season, which means the show may or may not be hitting its stride. All of that really, really excites me.
And I mean, we get this new trailer, and there's so much going on. We get seemingly a shipwreck again, and they're on this new island. We assume it's an island. There's drones. There's a new scarred up T-Rex. There's other dinosaurs. There's robot dogs. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. And there's the Spinosaurus. She's back.
Okay, so is she back or is she new?
That's the thing. It looks so much like the Jurassic Park 3 one and it feels like they would do that, even though I am a little disappointed this is not Isosorna. I feel like there's other stuff going on that maybe InGen was doing, or maybe another company, and they got that Spinosaurus. Also, I think it was our friend, our buddy Mondo, who's like, can't the Spinos swim? I'm like, wait a minute, you're right. It can't swim. So, like, what if it just went to another island?
It can swim, same as the Mosasaurus can. So, yeah, it's totally possible. It's just that from the toy lines that we have seen and then what we see in the trailer, the skin tone looks darker and greener, more earth tones than the one that we see in Jurassic Park 3. But it's also been 20 years. So who knows what happens to the aging process of a Spinosaurus over the course of 20 years. So there's plenty to speculate on that. There's plenty that's up in the air. But I think what's interesting to me is in the trailer, it talks about a new island. And so to me, that verbiage could be a new island to the campers or a new island to the viewers. Because if it's a new island to the campers, then 100% it's going to be Isla Sorna. But if it's new to the viewers, there is an entire archipelago called Las Cinco Muertes.
Yeah.
And it could be one of the other ones. It could be Mantanceros. It could be Pena. It could be Tacaño. There's plenty of islands around here that, like Mondo said, the Spino could have swum there. And we're on a completely new environment. We're in a completely new place that we've never seen or experienced before. And that kind of intrigues me almost as much as being on Sorna does, because if you recall during some of our Jurassic Arc discussions, one of my predictions was that they were going to end up on Isla Sorna eventually. And I'll feel really vindicted if if that comes true. But if we end up someplace different, I'm not going to complain either, because it's like new dinosaurs and new experiences.
This if it is a new island, like that's interesting. If it's not a new island, if it's actually Isla Sorna, like, or one of the other islands, like stuff's happens because like there's drones, it's like desert on part of it, which we've never really seen before.
Right.
And there's also like these video wall things that are happening. It's like the volume from the Mandalorian, but it's like with things and like what's going on there. Like, is this island even real? Like, is it like an artificial island, like some kind of VR thing?
Mhm.
Like, that's what I'm curious about.
So Joel Davis sent us something in the chat that can contribute to this conversation. Jurassic Evolution 2, the game, said that the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 is dead and was the statue that the T-Rex destroyed in Jurassic World.
Whoa, I did not.
I had never heard any of that before. I also don't know how much canon the Evolution games contain. So that is one thing that we would have to ask a couple of friends of ours who play the games more than we do. I'm just not a gamer, unfortunately. And I don't know how much weight that's actually going to hold. But even if it is a new Spinosaurus, we're going to get similar mannerisms. We're going to get similar attack patterns. And the drones, as you mentioned, are a pretty big deal in this because we see them basically corralling predator dinosaurs. We see something that resembles a Rex getting corralled in one of the clip shots, and then this screenshot that we've got has the drones flying around the Spino. My theory is not only are the drones like the technology being used to help protect the Wranglers so that you're not risking human lives unnecessarily, but I'm betting that it's got some Squid Game vibes to it, and they're actually pitting the dinosaurs against one another in some sort of fighting ring that is being catered to the filthy rich.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm reading on the Jurassic Park wiki.
Okay.
There's a section of the Spinosaurus. Should I read this or should I not?
Yeah, but by all means, we've got a couple of minutes left.
Okay, I'll read this really quick. It says a Spinosaurus skeleton reconstruction, more like the fossil record creature and less like the Isla Sorna clone, was mounted in Main Street of Jurassic World. The middle of it was smashed through by the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So they seem to be like saying that it's not that one. It says like more like the fossil record creature and less like the Isla Sorna clone.
Okay,
so it's not. So there's some contradictory stuff here.
It's like a 3D model of it or something based on the genetic makeup from the one that was created in 3. Like they've got the genetic pattern. They just didn't recreate the dinosaur. They only recreated the bone structure so that they could have that display at the park.
And as we know, the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are not necessarily scientifically accurate. They even address that in the movies to say, like, you just wanted to be scary. You didn't want it to be realistic. So, like, that's the whole thing.
Okay, so going back to my theory, because I think it's a good theory, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Yeah. The theory of the drones not just being corral tools, but also being used to guide the dinos into, like, a fighting ring for the filthy rich. Do you think that could happen?
Is this Dino Squid Game?
Yes.
Like, is this like that? I think that's a really good possibility. I think they have to start exploring these different ideas, like how dinosaurs would be used, or better yet, exploited in a world where dinosaurs are real, they exist, they've been brought back, and they've been brought onto the mainland. We don't know they don't know if stuff's been happening at this point. We know that Camp Cretaceous has caught up with the events of Fallen Kingdom. How far we've gotten into it, who knows?
Right.
But there's dinosaurs, and there's also just dinosaurs in general. The cloning technology is there; they could be anywhere. And what if you just have another island where they're just like doing this, and that would explain like the different environments and the video walls, and they keep them in these enclosures and like have the video walls around them just to keep them, like docile because they look like their environment. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I feel like there's some kind of shady under the table dealings that could involve the filthy rich, much like the ones that we saw in Fallen Kingdom. You don't set up a VR fortress on an abandoned island off the coast of Costa Rica if you're not having some sort of shady dealings going down. So I feel like this has something to do with Manticore, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it had something to do with the Russians that were at the auction in Fallen Kingdom.
There's a lot of stuff going on. Like that whole auction thing
Mhm.
is like so many implications for like
Oh,
where
yeah.
that could go, and like
Oh, yeah.
where did all those dinosaurs go? Are they going to be like? There's so many implications. Like that's what I'm curious about with like Dominion. Like I want to see that movie, and it's still a
Oh,
year
dude.
away. But like for crying out loud, there's
Dude.
so
But
many stuff.
But the nice thing is we get at least this season, and it's expected maybe one more season before we get to Dominion. So there's still plenty of Jurassic content
yeah.
out there, and we're going to get this new season in 2 weeks. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement based on this trailer, and there's plenty of opportunity for speculation, but we're going to get our answers in just a couple short weeks, and I'm excited for that.
Very, very excited. Coming up very quickly. A lot quicker than I expected. All right, there it is.
Hey, we're keeping on time. I'm actually pretty stoked about how on time we're keeping. So
Great.
these next two that we've got on the show notes, I kind of want us to maybe mush them together because I don't know if I've got 10 minutes to cover on each topic, but I felt like they were worth mentioning because they both happened during the release of a lot of announcements and special features and things like that from Disney Plus Day. That was just earlier this week, wasn't it? Like, wasn't it Monday?
No, that was last Friday. That was a week ago, almost exactly.
A week ago today. Okay, well, I was close. I remember being on the road for work and like hitting the refresh button on Twitter just to see what kind of stuff was happening, but I forgot if it happened.
I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't a whole lot, at least from the Star Wars perspective.
No, not
we got some good Marvel stuff and some good Disney stuff.
And some decent Pixar stuff, which is what we're going to touch on here. This next segment is going to be some of the Disney Plus Day stuff related to Pixar. And so it's gonna talk about Turning Red, and it's gonna talk about the new short Ciao Alberto. So if you haven't seen either of those, you can skip ahead 10 minutes from now. But that's what this next rapid fire segment is going to be about. If you're ready, Ben, I'm going to count us in. Ben, did you mute yourself?
Ready?
Did you?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm just
mute me. Little bit of a lag there. That's okay. We're getting through it.
Apologies.
We're getting through it. All right. We'll go in 3, 2, 1.
All right.
So the interesting part about Ciao Alberto is I'm assuming because I added this to the show notes, you got a chance to see it. But if I remember correctly, you still haven't gotten around to seeing the movie it's based on, have you?
No, I watched this like a few minutes before the show, and I have not seen Luca yet. But now I kind of want to, because this is a very sweet, cute little short. Very short, so I recommend like anybody give it a shot. It's really short. It's called, check it out. But yeah, it's very, very good. And kind of gets me intrigued about the whole like situation with Luca and the whole premise of that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you're okay with a mild movie spoiler.
Yeah, sure.
Basically, Luca grew up in the ocean, wanted to live amongst people. It's a very Little Mermaid type of vibe. But by the end of the movie, he actually gets an opportunity to go to school. And so he wants to go and learn about people. He wants to learn how to be people. But his best friend, Alberto, doesn't think school is for him. And so he stays behind in the town to hang out with one of the local fishermen who was in the previous in the movie. And so they kind of started bonding, and that's part of what you get to see in the short. But you get to see a little bit more of the town. You get to see a little bit more of Alberto's personality. You get to see what kind of trouble he gets into when Luca's not around to bail him out of trouble, essentially. And you actually get to see some of his more anxious side, which is something you don't see in the feature-length film. Alberto's usually a very confident character in the movie, but there are several times in the short where he keeps asking, "Am I fired? Am I fired?" Like, like he doesn't know exactly what his limits are, and he keeps accidentally pushing them, but the people of the town keep loving on him anyway. And I think that's a really endearing storyline. Is it's essentially unconditional love. Like
Yeah.
even when you make mistakes, the people still love you, and that I think is something that's definitely worthwhile in driving across, even if it is like a 7-minute video.
Yeah, I love the messaging of it, and he's such a screw up. Screws everything up. But is his dad, as he comes to know him in the end. He's very standoffish, but they kind of make a bond, and they make a connection near the end. It's just like, okay, you burn the boat, but we're gonna fix the boat. It's okay. It's okay. Like I love. It's very, very sweet.
Like that is that guy's livelihood, you know? Like that guy is a fisherman. He needs the boat. And that's the one thing that ends up getting affected. And it's so interesting to see how much the the dynamic doesn't change even though it has the potential to.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
So it's it's a cute short, and it's worth seeing. Like you said, it's only 6 or 7 minutes. They've actually got some really cute shorts on Disney Plus. That one and Auntie Edna are two of my favorites. The one that they made for Incredibles 2. Um, and I'm not saying that because I've got a girlfriend named Edna. Like it's actually a really good short. So um, but yeah, that one was really cool. And then actually, you said you watched Ciao Alberto right before coming on the show. I actually watched the trailer for Turning Red right before coming on the show. So like that one is pretty fresh in my mind. And I think the one thing that stands out to me about that trailer is that it's a unique story.
Very.
There is no story like it in Pixar or just about any other type of storytelling that I've ever seen. And I appreciate the heck out of that. In the world of Monster University and Cars 3 and Toy Story 4, it's not a sequel. It's not a spin-off. It's not something that we've ever seen before. It's a completely original, unique storyline that has the potential to have the same type of heart that you get from something like Inside Out, but also the potential to have some kind of great mystical energy, shape-shifting type of energy that you get from something like Brave. So I appreciate the inspirations that it seems to be drawing from, but also really like that it's something seemingly original.
I love that, like, you just trying to explain this movie to someone, like, instantly, like, kind of endears you to the plot of, like, well, okay, it's kind of like the Hulk, but it's a little girl, and then instead of turning into a green monster, she turns into a giant red panda, and you're like, what? And then you watch the trailer, like, okay, I get it. Okay, it's okay. I'm on board with this. Like, it's so, and I love that. Like, it's more about growing up, obviously kind of a coming of age story for this little girl, but also it's not about like people being afraid of the red panda, because I don't know if you've noticed, red pandas are freaking adorable. Okay,
They are.
they're like the most adorable creatures on the face of the earth.
They are.
And the fact is, like, it's more like just an embarrassment thing for her into this big creature, and we're like, oh, it's a red panda. Like, it's not this fear thing. It's just a great little premise. And I'm like, okay, you got me, Pixar. Again, this is crazy. I don't know how you came up with this, but I'm on board.
Can you imagine being like in the writer's room trying to come up with the story for this? Like how high must you have been to have come up with like, okay, it's a tween girl who, hormones is going to make her have really extreme emotions. So when she has these really extreme reactions to stuff, let's just turn her into a 12-foot tall red panda.
Just like think about the confidence that this requires to make this movie. The
Oh, yeah.
confidence for someone to come up with the idea and stand in front of a room of executives and go like, "Here's my idea for the movie," and
Yep.
then those executives to have enough confidence to go like, "Okay, that sounds good. We're gonna make this into a multi-million-dollar motion picture, and people are gonna watch it." And you're like, "How do you do that?" I would be like on day one going like, "This is dumb. No one's gonna like this. This is dumb. There's no way." Anyways, but Pixar, I guess at this point, they're just like, we're Pixar. We can do whatever we want, and people will watch it.
Well, they've got some really, really talented creatives on their staff too. Like Pixar is kind of like the show these days, If you're
Right.
on the writing staff at Pixar, that means you have like worked your way up through the ranks and you have earned the ability to help write lines for movies that are going to make $1 billion,
Yeah, exactly.
Like I listened to this podcast called Parks and Recollection. It's like
That's a great title.
it's like an episode by episode review of the show, and one of the hosts of the podcast was one of the original writers of the show. And so
Oh, wow.
every episode he gets to take you as a listener behind the scenes and listen to what the creative process sounds like when you're writing the script for a sitcom. And he said a lot of times they were just doing Sporcle articles, those games where you got to like fill in the answers to like, what were the top 100 songs of 1986 or something like that. Like they were playing those types of games a lot, but it was also meant to like inspire their creativity. And so he talked about like bouncing ideas off of one another and how, there was one or two people that had the final say, but then there were some people who were like getting the writing credit for that episode. Like when you go through the credits, it'll say written by so-and-so. And those people who were like in charge of that episode got to have the final say on certain scripting decisions and stuff. And so it's interesting to see how collaborative a writer's room can be. And, even though it'll say screenplay by so-and-so, there were probably like a dozen other people that helped come up with the idea for this movie. And I got to give all of them props because, like I said, it's completely unique, completely original, and it's definitely something that I'm intrigued to see somewhere down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very like Pixar. It's just like that's the studio to watch. Like you're just like, okay, what are they doing? What are they working on? And just very, so like I'm like, yeah, Red Panda movie. Here we go. Let's go. I'm game. Pixar, you got my money. Take it. Okay. All right.
Wow, we actually got that. We got both of those taken care of in one 10-minute segment. I'm actually kind of impressed. We did good there. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit more broad, and I really don't know how this one's going to go, to be honest, because we were talking about a couple of Pixar things that happened during Disney Plus Day, but obviously there was a lot of other stuff that happened over the course of that day as well. You mentioned a lot of Marvel stuff. There was a lot of She-Hulk that happened. There was some Hawkeye stuff that happened. What do we get? We got like a still from Moon Knight. We got, a whole bunch of Marvel stuff. We got just a couple of Star Wars related pieces, which I'm sure the Underworld covered in great detail.
Yeah.
And then there was stuff from National Geographic, which I was really confused by, but I mean,
Chris Hemsworth is hosting a show. Will Smith is hosting a show. Like they got all the they just get the giant star and go put them in the wilderness.
I guess it's so out there. There's so many things that are happening here, but I mean, we got to see some Kenobi concept art. A lot of new releases like Shang-Chi, Jungle Cruise, Sweet Home Alone, that kind of stuff. So the next 10 minutes are going to be dedicated to like some of the biggest things that happened and some of the things that we're most excited about from Disney Plus Day. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm going to count us in 3, 2, 1. Okay. obviously, we could just redirect people over to the Underworld's page to listen to all of the in-depth Star Wars discussion that happened. But to sum up, how much or how little actually came to pass from the galaxy far, far away, and how much is there to actually be that excited about?
There's still a ton of things happening apparently, but we only got 2 things on Disney Plus Day. 2 things. Okay, they're 2 really good things, but just 2 things. We got the Obi-Wan Kenobi sizzle reel, which leaked before Disney Plus Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got on Disney Plus Day, we got the Boba Fett under the helmet.
That documentary,
Which was great, which was really good. That's about it for Star Wars. And then we got some Marvel reveals and stuff like that. So like there was some good stuff, but it was a little bit underwhelming on the Star Wars side.
Yeah, I think it was more meant to be like mostly about Marvel, but oh hey, Ciao Alberto is now on Disney Plus, and oh hey, there's a Boba Fett documentary, so it's Disney Plus. But like I would say probably like 80-90% of it really had to do with some of the stuff going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And here's the interesting part, and I really don't know how to feel about this. Like I feel kind of good just based on my experiences with things like WandaVision and Loki, but in the next year to year and a half, there's going to be a crap ton of MCU content happening exclusively on Disney Plus. Yeah. Where if you're not watching She-Hulk, you're not going to know what's happening in Eternals 2, essentially. Like it's going to be so interconnected. It's going to have so many hearkenings to, other pieces of the MCU, whether it's within or without of the Disney Plus content. But there's about to be so much of it that you basically have to be subscribed to Disney Plus in order to keep up with Marvel. And I think they made that abundantly clear with things like Spider-Man Freshman Year, Agatha House of Harkness, Marvel Zombies, Secret Invasion. What was the other one? We got Ironheart.
We got Ironheart.
Echo. Like, oh my gosh.
And we actually got a little bit of look at She-Hulk and Moon Knight, which both of those I'm very excited about.
Yep.
One, having Oscar Isaac in the MCU, just great. I know nothing about Moon Knight. Something about Egyptian gods. I don't know. All right. I'm going in blind again, so I'm excited. And then She-Hulk also. I'm like, what is going on with this?
Speaking of Oscar Isaac, we're gonna get to touch on him in the next segment. Just kind of teasing y'all a little bit.
Yes, we will.
But I'm intrigued, particularly with She-Hulk, because I feel like there's a lot of potential, particularly in the possibility of bringing back certain characters from Netflix's Marvel. The stage is set, according to a lot of people who know Marvel Comics better than I do. They say that the stage is set for She-Hulk to end up interacting with characters like Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. And that intrigues the heck out of me. But I'm also in this camp of, if you're going to bring back Daredevil, he either needs to be in feature-length films or he needs to be on Hulu. Because I don't see his type of content, the type of content that we got from the Netflix Daredevil stuff, I don't see that content showing up on Disney Plus. So
it's interesting how they handle it.
I could see him making appearances in things like She-Hulk and possibly, only being available for like the martial arts side of things. Because if you do anything else with that type of character, you almost have to do it on a platform where it's okay to be dropping F-bombs and showing boobs and stuff like that. Like, it's just... come on, man. The first season of Daredevil had someone getting beheaded by the door of a car.
Yeah, never forget that. That's in my brain forever.
You're never going to get that on She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, Echo, Secret Invasion, Hawkeye, whatever ends up on here. Loki Season 2. Doesn't matter. You're never going to get something like that on Disney Plus. So the number, the quantity is definitely there. But if we're looking at like how nitty gritty these shows are going to be, I'm still on the fence as far as just how much they're going to be able to cover and how much they're going to be able to reveal, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they handle all this. I think it's past time for not only to Marvel to kind of broaden their strength and like stuff that's more adult oriented,
Yes.
that's more characters that are more mature and whatever else. I think it's also past time for Disney Plus to kind of, for lack of a better term, grow up a little bit and do some more mature stuff. And look, say yeah, not everything is on. They have Spider-Man movie. They actually don't, but they have other stuff. They have Marvel movies with dick jokes and lots of other swear words in them. Like it's not all for families. It's not all Disney squeaky clean. So let's just have a section of Disney Plus that and just have it Disney Plus kids and that's not for kids. Daredevil isn't even that bad, I don't think. It's just a little bit over the line of what I think you would expect. It's a little more bloody, a little more language, a lot more violence. I just hope that they're willing to and I hope that they understand that like people are going to expect this. They've seen Daredevil on Netflix. They know what this character can do and what kind of world he's been in. I think it would be a disservice to him to just go, okay, now we're gonna, Disneyfy him and make him all squeaky clean, and he's just gonna be like everyone else. Like the reason people like Daredevil is because it was something different, and a little more darker, a little more mature.
Yeah, yeah, and I think on international platforms there is going to be a section that's going to have
Star is a big thing.
Yeah, because you're going to have some of those 20th Century Studios originals like the Alien prequel, and that's going to end up on Star internationally. So obviously, an Alien series is not something you would traditionally see on Disney Plus, but it is something that will be in a certain subsection internationally. I would not be opposed to seeing like a certain subsection that you could stick things like maybe She-Hulk or Echo or Secret Invasion, something like that, or even Loki. I think Loki has grown up enough that it could be in one of the adult sections if it needed to be. But then on regular Disney Plus, you're also going to get things like a Baymax series. They're reviving the '97 X-Men series. Tiana from Princess and the Frog is getting her own thing. Zootopia Plus is happening, and then here's the one that I'm personally pretty excited for. This is supposed to be like the thing we're most excited for from Disney Plus Day. They are bringing Owen Wilson and Larry the Cable Guy back to have a Lightning McQueen and Mater adventure in a series next year called Cars on the Road. Out of all the announcements that have been made, I'm actually pretty stoked to have like a serialized set of Cars adventures. I know that the Monsters Inc. show was kind of hit and miss for some people, but I feel like Cars is a beloved enough franchise that it has the potential to have some pretty good successes.
Yeah. I just hope they start broadening things out. I think Disney Plus would be a more appealing platform if you had, a section for darker, more mature stuff. Maybe Eternals is the thing. They're willing to okay a sex scene in a Marvel movie. So maybe this Disney turning a page and going like, okay, we're gonna do the family friendly content. That's always gonna be a thing for us, but we can also do other things too.
Yeah, that's true. They also gave their first look at Hocus Pocus 2 with Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. And honestly, it looks freaking on point. Like I didn't even really grow up on Hocus Pocus, but I'm totally watching the second one. Like I'm gonna do a double feature just to see all of them get excited about playing their roles again. I love it when they revive stuff like that.
That's amazing.
And then also the Ice Age franchise is coming back. They got this thing called Adventures of Buck Wild and the return of Simon Pegg to the franchise. So there's a lot that's going on. I know we're almost out of time, and I want to give the floor to you to close it out. Out of the things that Disney Plus Day announced, which one are you the most excited about?
Oh, okay. Shut up. Not you. Not that it was the timer. I was still in the timer. Shut up. Moon Knight. Moon Knight is the thing that I'm most excited for because I know nothing about it, and like the whole idea is supposed to have like multiple personality disorder, and that looks like it's something that could. It looks more like Daredevil. It looks more mature and more like he's in the bathroom, like beating some guy up. I'm like, yes, give it to me. Give it to me.
I am in favor of abuse. No, I'm not.
Violence.
Violence. Give me more violence. Yeah.
I'm like Mr. Bones now. Yes, violence.
Okay. It wasn't really talked about a whole lot during Disney Plus Day, but I think it's also worth mentioning because it's also being mentioned in the chat. Lightyear.
Yes.
I'm really stoked for Lightyear, to be honest.
I love it.
Like, basically, the synopsis that they gave, or not the synopsis, we don't know the plot of the movie yet, but like the way to think about it, essentially. In the Toy Story franchise, the Buzz Lightyear that we see is the equivalent of an Iron Man action figure going on adventures.
Yeah.
In this movie, we're actually watching Iron Man.
I can't wait to spend like a full hour talking about Lightyear. Because I can't wait to watch it because it looks great.
It may be a whole episode, dude. That may be a 2-hour discussion, to be honest.
I genuinely think, and we talked a lot about it. Joel and I talked a lot about it a couple weeks ago. But basically, my theory is this could be a whole new, like, gargantuan space fantasy franchise for Pixar. Like, I think this could be huge. And they're going to open it up to like Star Command and Zurg and all what's going on in that universe. Like, I think we're going to see some really cool stuff. And they've grounded it, but not grounded it too much. And I think it's going to be really great.
I'll say this. I am completely on board with that idea as long as we get Booster and XR back.
I see no reason not to bring them back. Not get them in there. Get all the stuff from the old cartoon in there.
I got a laugh from the other end of the room from my wife. I showed her a couple of episodes, and those two, their character dynamic is just ridiculous. Like their comedic level is just like so high up there. It's uncanny. It's ridiculous.
That's funny.
So if we get them back, I'd be really excited. But I like the idea of having like a Lightyear verse. Almost. As long as Chris Evans is on board, I'd like a whole trilogy, man. Totally. Absolutely.
Do it.
Okay. Let's take a breather for just a second before we go to the next Oscar Isaac discussion and just talk about our Patreon. Very, very grateful for people like Joey Mays and Jesse Bennett for their support. There are a few others as well, but they are both at the shout out friend tier, which is available at patreon.com/IPC podcast. If you're looking for some exclusive group access, some behind the scenes info, you want to influence discussion topics on the show or whatever else, then you can do so by going to patreon.com/IPC podcast. And fun fact, Jesse, who's in the chat tonight, has his own show called Question Possible Answer. And it's a really, really great show. He and his co-host always have like really, really meta discussions, and it's super fun.
I was on the most recent episode talking about Solo's Star Wars story. It was great.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. I saw someone, I think Jesse posted it on the page and was plugging your appearance, and I was like, dang, that's awesome. But he says, come join us as we discuss some of our favorite movies with a twist. Ignoring the canon, every question is on the table unless the answer is given in the series. We introduce our own fun theories and possibilities, and you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Question Possible Answer and Question_Possible_Answer on Insta. Now available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other podcast services.
It's a great listen.
It's a great listen. It's a great show, and he's a great partner. I know we haven't been doing RIPC lately, and that's on me because of all the football stuff and the grad school and things like that. But we are going to be bringing that back. So looking forward to doing that with you again soon, Jesse. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Joey, for your support. Thank you to everyone who hangs out with us. So it's it's a good time here on the IPC, and it's good to be back, man. Reading that stuff off, it reminded me of like the readers that I would do during football games. There were some though that were like super long and super drawn out, and I would like fumble over my own words sometimes. Like it's good to be able to be a little bit more casual and laid back about some of those readers and
Yeah.
not have to sound like announcer dude all the time. So coming back to the discussions we teased with the little Moon Knight stuff that we're excited about Oscar Isaac, and he was a pretty leading character in a certain movie that I don't think Anakin Skywalker would want to come anywhere near.
No, this is not a Skywalker friendly movie. Don't think Anakin would have appreciated this one.
Probably not, but I definitely appreciated it. Let's go ahead and get ourselves lined up for a discussion of the movie Dune. I've got the little ticker thing ready to go here.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't want to hear spoilers about Dune, you might want to jump ahead for about 10 minutes because we're going to start talking about it in 3, 2, 1.
And there actually is quite a bit about this movie you can spoil because pretty much everyone dies.
Oh man, and that's part of what really confuses me about this movie is it's supposed to be the first of what's supposedly a trilogy.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do that when you've only got like 3 main characters that survive out of like 15?
Such a great cast and so many of them gone
dude.
so quickly.
Dude, it's awesome. I personally feel like Jason Momoa like kind of stole the show a little bit.
I loved him. I was so disappointed when Duncan died. Man, that was so.
Duncan was awesome.
Loved him.
The mystery behind Zendaya's character was also really, really cool.
Right.
And then Oscar Isaac. I really liked his portrayal.
So good.
As the patriarch. You know, they let him kind of showcase his gray at the temples and a little bit of a graying beard, and it worked. It really worked. Him as the head of, what was it, House Atreides, I think is what they're called. Him as the head of House Atreides was a really great choice. I liked the casting in this. I liked the visuals. Really great sets, really great locations. The worms, really great CGI with them. Like there's a lot of praiseworthy elements to this film.
Oh yeah, this movie is stunning to look at.
Mm-hmm.
See it in the theater if you can, if it's safe, because it's amazing to see on a big screen. And so just an amazing film. Denis Villeneuve is one of the best working right now, one of the best filmmakers, and seeing him get to do this was amazing. And like I said, the great cast, but and they are very confident with this. They're like, okay, this is part 1 right out of the gate. And their part 2 is coming soon. And I'm assuming we'll get more cast members. I'm not sure. I've not read the books. I've read a little bit into the lore and history. But that was after the movie, and that really, like, watching the movie, like, I want to learn more about this because it is such a deep lore. I would compare it to like Lord of the Rings, like that, like this Tolkien stuff of like this really deep. They're not necessarily throwing stuff at you and like trying to explain it to you. They're like, okay, this stuff's happened. This is a real world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an emperor way off in the distance, and there's all this stuff happening. We're just focused on these House Atreides and what they're doing. And it's very deep, and just the whole aesthetic of it, the personal shields and everything like that, so sci-fi, and so many really great ideas that I think are so well executed, and so stunningly beautiful. I mean, the movie is just gorgeous.
I'm totally getting it on 4K.
You got to
100% getting it on 4K. The visual components, like I said, are just stunning. The stuff on the ships, the stuff in the temples, everything like the cavern where they have the fight at the end of the movie. it's all just so beautiful to look at. There are some overarching, what I would call money shots that happen in this film that are just freaking gorgeous. And I think that's a testament to the writing and the directing, being able to come up with the right sets and the right locations to be able to film this in. But it also takes a really great cast to be able to execute it, because something that I've learned recently is that a film gets made 3 times. Once in the writer's room, once on the stage when you're shooting, and then again in the editor's room. Like there's
Yeah.
there's 3 different creation stages that happen to get to a fully formed product. And I feel like they just hit it on all 3 phases. They had great source material that they tried their hardest to be respectful of. They went out and they found some great locations and created some great sets to be able to accommodate the actors that executed it. And then it was very well edited. The worm CGI didn't look overdone. Some of the fight sequences that happened between some of the warring houses, it felt very real and immersive. There was just a lot of really, really engaging stuff in here that, like you said, you get dropped into this and you start feeling like it's real. You start feeling like it's attainable. This is something that could actually happen. And to me, it feels kind of like a blend of like the feudal lordship and complex storytelling that you get from Game of Thrones, but also some of that attainable futuristic sci-fi that you get from Star Wars. Like there are a couple of those different types of vibes and components. I'm not saying that this is Tatooine that they're on necessarily, but I am saying that there are a lot of things that remind me of other franchises while also allowing it to stand on its own 2 feet, which is really impressive.
Yeah, it's, trying to deal with all that. The fact that this is a new film, but the source material is so old and it's been around for so long and is influenced so many other things, namely Star Wars. And RIP to all the people that went, "Hey, I think this is copying Star Wars." RIP to those people. Go do your research. But it is very, this is highly influential. I think they did a really well job of like doing it, and like obviously there is stuff that influences other things, but like it's its own thing, its own aesthetic, and it's very much, about establishing this universe.
Right.
And yes, it does, you can see those connections, but I feel Dune feels very Dune. It doesn't feel like it's a Star Wars ripoff, or that Star Wars ripped it off.
Right.
It feels all its own thing, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like, I wasn't trying to say that it is Star Wars or anything like that. It's more like the most comparable comparison that I could make would be Game of Thrones meets Star Wars. It's not that it is Star Wars. It's not that it is Game of Thrones. It's definitely Dune. It's 110% Dune. And
Dune is Dune. The other things are maybe a little bit Dune.
right, maybe, yeah. But I think that's a testament to Villeneuve. I think it's a testament to the players like Dave Bautista and Oscar Isaac and Timothy Chalamet. Like, there are some really great execution perspectives that allow it to flow a lot better than a lot of other movies do. And I can totally see why it would be up for movie of the year, why it would be up for best director. I can see why it would be best adapted screenplay. I could see why it would be best cinematography, best costumes. Like, there's a lot of things that this movie could be nominated for and potentially win, because it's just hitting on all the right notes. I'm sure it had an extortionate budget, but it feels so worth it. Like, the more I talk about it right now, the more I want to go back and watch it. And like, the only movies I can say that about this year would probably be Dune and maybe something like Ghostbusters Afterlife. There aren't a whole lot of movies that I'm like, I got to go back to the theater and see that. But Dune is definitely one of those.
Yeah, I think Denis Villeneuve and all of his team are going to rack up at the next Oscars. I have that feeling. This has Oscar bait written all over it. And it's not even Oscar bait. It's just a good movie. It's
not
a beautiful movie.
It's not. I like that term Oscar bait because there's definitely a movie coming out that is completely Oscar bait, and that would be House of Gucci.
Oh yeah.
House of Gucci is just it is Oscar bait on steroids, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to go see it. I mean, Adam Driver, Al Pacino, and Lady Gaga. I don't even care about the Gucci line all that much, but the stuff that I saw in the trailer was really intriguing. So
give Adam Driver his Oscar already.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, he's long overdue. He should have gotten it in that movie that he did with Scarlett Johansson, and he didn't. And I was pretty pissed about that. But I think this could be it. I think this could be it for him, but we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I know we're coming up on the last minute here.
23 seconds.
Yeah, Dune is a great movie. Probably one of the better movies I've seen all year, and one of the very few movies that I actually want to go and watch a second time. I've got AMC A-List. It's not going to cost me anything. I'm already paying the month-to-month subscription. It's just going to cost me, a couple of hours of my time, and I'm willing to invest a couple hours of my time to go back and watch it again.
Again, it's a long movie. It's over 2.5 hours, but I would recommend, like, if you can get to a theater, get to a theater. If you can't, just settle in, turn your phone off, get sucked in, just let it wash over you. It's just getting immersed in that universe is great, and the visuals will just blow you away.
It really will.
Okay, all right.
Hey, good timing again. We're actually doing pretty good on this whole rapid fire idea tonight. For the most part, we're keeping it.
I think it's worked out pretty darn well. I think we may not get to every single thing we wanted to talk about. Of course, we could be here all night talking about everything else because there's so much stuff happening. But we've gone down the list. We've done pretty darn good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different topics. So I mean, that's pretty darn good.
Well, here's the thing, though. The only other 2 things on the thing are stuff that I have not seen.
Right.
So I hate to just put you on the spot here, but it's kind of all you.
Yeah. No. That's fine. That's fine. I don't need a full 10 minutes for this. I'm gonna put myself on the stopwatch thing. I'm probably gonna do like maybe 5 minutes total, 5 or 6, because I know that once you do see it, we're definitely gonna have our friend Joey Mays on this show to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh yeah, that's like a guarantee. He's been like the whole weekend, like you haven't been able to find Joey Mays. He's been gone because he's been at the theater like all day and all night watching and rewatching Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I've seen pictures and I'm so happy for him. I can't wait to get his thoughts on the movie. I can't wait. I've heard so many good things. But we're going to do a full-on discussion. That's a given. That's happening. But I want to hear your thoughts about like spoiler-free thoughts on Afterlife. Yeah.
More or less, this is the Ghostbusters edition of The Force Awakens. It is something that has been...
It gave me that vibe. So yeah, I hear that.
It has been long anticipated. It has been hoped for. It has been worked on and reworked on. And I can honestly say that it's up there with Dune for like one of the better movies I've watched this year. Not as far as like the cinematic quality, like the Oscar-winning quality that you would get from Dune, but the entertainment value for this is like an 11 out of 10. All you have to do, the only thing I would recommend is watching the first Ghostbusters movie so that you kind of remember like the character names and things like that. But this isn't a spoiler necessary. This is just something that's going to like entice you to go watch it. One of the characters in the movie gets arrested or detained, depending on how you want to look at it. And they talk to the officer and say, "Don't I get a phone call?" And the officer comes right up to the bar and is like, "Yeah, you sure do." And then pauses for dramatic effect and goes, "Who you gonna call?" It was so great. It was so...
Oh, wait. Whoever wrote that deserves a raise.
It was so satisfying the way that they were able to weave that into the script.
That's
It was
amazing.
freaking awesome. The whole place just kind of erupted with applause. It was so perfect. Like, it was cheesy but perfect. And that's kind of what this movie is it's got some comedy, it's got some heart, it's got some recollections to the original movie. It's got a conclusion that will leave you both cheering and misty-eyed at the same time.
Wow.
Like, it is just firing on all cylinders. And Paul Rudd is a great addition to the cast. Like, he fits that Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, wry humor perfectly. And like, just fits seamlessly into this franchise. And so like, this is another one that I kind of want to go back and see, because it's going to be a while before it's on disc or on streaming, and I want to see it again before that. So it was really, really great. It had heart, it had action, it had comedy, it had a great finale. Like, I have very few complaints about it. There's one part towards the end that I feel like got drawn out more than necessary, and there are a few characters who probably deserve more screen time, and a few other characters who deserve a little less screen time, like that sort of thing. So my initial thoughts didn't give it a 10 out of 10. It was like a 8.5 or something like that. But that's still really, really high initial impressions, because Eternals had like a 6 out of 10 or something like that initial impression. So
Right.
I thoroughly enjoyed Afterlife, and I look forward to talking about it in greater detail with you and Joey when the time comes around.
That is very, very encouraging. I can't wait to see it myself.
Yeah, and then I know you're going to see it probably between now and the next time we get together, but
Weekend. Hopefully this weekend. Hopefully as soon as maybe I can,
maybe
or
soon.
maybe Thanksgiving weekend. Maybe I'll have some free time then. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have some time off during the holiday break. That'll be fun. I'm actually taking the day off for Black Friday. First time in like a couple of years that I've had the day after Thanksgiving off. So I'm gonna have like a 4-day weekend. It's gonna be freaking awesome.
Just stay away from Walmart. Take a vacation away
No,
from
not going
Walmart.
anywhere near Walmart. No, heck no. No,
I don't want to hear about you getting like stabbed or shot
I've
over
already
pull a tissue or a TV.
I've already got a 32-inch extendo screen for my computer. I've got a 32-inch flat screen in this room. I got another 32-inch in this room. Like, basically every room in the house already has a TV. I don't need another TV. All right, I am good. But I did enjoy watching the premiere of Discovery season 4 on my TV.
I'm gonna hear about this.
It basically picks up immediately where season 3 left off. Like, they've been doing stuff to try and help rebuild the Federation from the aftermath of the burn, and they've discovered dilithium, and they're trying to disperse it to other Federation members and stuff like that. And Discovery, because of its Black Alert, its spore drive, has been able to just jump to different places to deliver dilithium. That's been their job for a while now. But then they get a new mission in this episode. And so there's like a combination of like investigating weird scenarios and also trying to figure out how exactly the Federation is going to rebuild and stuff. So it's like this first episode is like a transition out of season 3 and introduces the new season 4 threat, essentially. But leaves you on a pretty big emotional cliffhanger that makes you wonder if time travel is going to be involved again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that, because the scope of what happens makes you wonder if the event that transpired is in fact reversible. But the only way it would be reversible would be if time travel was involved, which, as we know, according to the temporal accords, time travel is not a viable option in this timeline. So, do you violate the temporal accords in order to rectify this big thing that happened at the end of the episode? Or is our crew going to have to live with the repercussions of what just happened?
one of the, I mean, I've loved Discovery. I think season 3 that we just came out of, right? That was the most interesting, and I love that season because of the time travel aspect. I think it was brilliant what they did with
Mm.
that show
Mm-hmm.
of like, and kind of like we always wonder, like, why did they go all the way back before the original series? Why did they do all this? And
Yep.
that season 2 confirmed it and established that, hey, we're going to the future. This is great. And I think season 3 used it brilliantly. But going forward, it's like, okay, the time travel aspect is kind of a part of the show. Are they going to lose it? Are they going to bring it back? So like, I might need to go watch that right now. I might need to go re-sign up for Paramount Plus and watch that right now because I'm very excited now. And I'm glad that this goes back. And man, that you got me stoked.
It's interesting. It's got some like Federation politics involved, which I really don't care for, but I understand why you need to have it. But for the most part, you're just kind of picking up where the crew left off at the end of the previous season and like transitioning your way into a new adventure. And I'm here for it. So
That's awesome.
I'm excited to see what happens next. So yeah, be on the lookout for a special episode dedicated to Ghostbusters Afterlife. We'll probably do like a season 4 synopsis, like a season 4 recap when Discovery is all the way finished. There's going to definitely be a Camp Cretaceous discussion somewhere along the line.
And we're not going to talk about that Spider-Man movie. We're just going to skip over that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like that's going to be a thing too. I guess we're going to have to talk about Spider-Man at some point. Yeah.
I mean, who wants us to talk about Spider-Man? Come on. It's not like it's popular or anything.
We might have to go back to a weekly format for the month of December with all the content we're going to be doing. Jeez, Louisiana. Maybe we'll do like special pop-up episodes or like a New Year's special or something. Who knows? I don't know what we're going to do about all that. There's so much to talk about in so little time, but I'm glad that we got to cover as much as we did in our rapid fire discussion tonight. We got one more rapid fire discussion to talk about. And this one's going to be a little tricky because I know we're running short on time, so we won't do the full 10 minutes, but we will try and do like a rapid discussion, more or less. And I'm hoping it doesn't get too political, but it might. So
spicy.
Yeah, let's get to it. If you're still watching live, we appreciate you, and we want you to get out your hashtags and start using them. If you are listening after it's been recorded, then start using them on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things. It's time for another edition of Hashtag Barbecue Watch. So I actually had some barbecue today, which I haven't been eating a whole lot of barbecue lately, and I don't really know why. But today I stopped at Buc-ee's because I needed gas, and I love Buc-ee's, and so I
love Buc-ee's.
I went to one of like the 6 Buc-ee's that are within driving distance of where I live, and I picked up a soda for 89 cents. It's like a 32-ounce fountain drink for like 89 cents, super cheap. They've got these different types of chips and stuff that you can get 2 bags of chips for $2, and it's like house-made potato chips with different flavors and seasonings on it. Like most of what they've got's a pretty decent bargain. But then I went and I picked up one of the barbecue sandwiches that they have. If you've seen pictures that I posted before or videos that I posted before, I tend to, showcase the little barbecue stand that they've got within the store.
Yeah.
They're actually like hand chopping the meat and doing little scoops of brisket that go onto the sandwiches, and they wrap them up, put a sticker on it, put it on the heat plate right there in the middle of the walkway. Like, barbecue's a pretty big deal at Buc-ee's, and for years, I've been working at this ATM company for 2 years now, 2.5, and whenever I go to a Buc-ee's, I would pick up a barbecue sandwich and a soda and a couple of bags of chips, and I could have the whole thing for under $10. Today, my total was over $10, and I got really, really confused until I realized that their sandwiches had gone up in price.
Uh-oh.
For the longest time, the sandwiches had been $5.99. And you could get the sandwiches off of the rack for $5.99, and some of them would actually be made with pickles and onions on the sandwich. which is to me really great because it's like free accessories just built right into it, extra flavor, extra vegetables, and whatever. Now you have to order the pickles and onions separate, and they give them to you in like these little solo cup containers with lids on them. And they're all so busy. I feel bad interrupting them, but that's a whole different conversation. But today, the sandwich that I picked up was not $5.99. I had to look at the sticker in my truck to figure out, what's the difference. Turns out their sliced brisket sandwiches went up in price by 99 cents a sandwich. So instead of being $5.99, they are now $6.98 per sandwich. At least mine was. And from what I can tell, the quality has not increased. The amount of meat has not increased. The only thing that has increased is the price. But I'm fairly certain the beef that they get is from like local ranchers and stuff. So we really can't blame like the ships that are off on the coast in California. Like that was my first thought, is like everything is kind of going up in price right now because of all the stuff up in the harbor. Like that's just a fact of life right now. But what I don't get is why it's more expensive. And as somebody who's in the industry, I was hoping that maybe you had some insights. Has the purchasing of beef gone up in barbecue restaurants recently? Is that just a thing that they're trying to compensate for? Or do you feel like they, as a big business, just arbitrarily decided to see if people would pay 99 cents more per sandwich, and they were right and it paid off for them?
I am no expert here. I know I look like an expert. I know I should be an expert.
You've only been in the barbecue industry for 20-something years.
I know, but you tend to pick up a thing or two, and then you don't pick up all the things sometimes, all right? So, but from my slightly more informed than the usual person's opinion, I would say this is not the fault of Buc-ee's. I would not necessarily jump to the conclusion that this is Buc-ee's trying to make an extra buck, if you will pardon the pun. Because I know for a fact meat prices are crazy right now. They are absolutely crazy. And you could be right. Like, you could be right that there's stuff like that, but still that stuff has to go through processing and stuff like that.
Right.
It has to go to a processing plant, go to a thing, go several trucks back and forth and end up in your sandwich. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I'm not so sure that would make things better. I just know that I think beef especially, in fact, fun fact, right here at my little barbecue restaurant, beef is more expensive. You get an upcharge on beef.
Interesting.
If you order a beef sandwich, it's an upcharge because beef, not just pandemic, but pre-pandemic, beef had skyrocketed. It was so expensive. And so like, I don't think that's the problem, but there is other problems. Another problem is chicken wings. We had wings.
Look at Wingstop. They've had to turn into Thigh Stop.
Well, we don't have wings anymore. We don't sell them. We had to take them off the menu because they're just super expensive.
Wow.
And like, that's all I know from like, I hear that like, oh yeah, meat prices are sky high. I don't know exactly why this is happening. I don't think meat is sitting on, we obviously aren't shipping in meat from overseas. This is stuff that's made here in this country. So like, what is the deal? I don't know. Inflation's going all over the place. You know, we're coming out of this pandemic kind of, but we're not really, and people are spending more money and things are going, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
And I would, if you, and this is a word of advice to anyone, I wouldn't necessarily, if you see a business hiking up prices and you say to them, hey, look, I'm paying more for this, but I'm not getting any more for this. I'm getting the same thing, but for more things. I understand. I completely understand like where you're coming from there. Anybody would be like, hey, what's the deal with this? Like asking questions. But I would be cautious and give the benefit of the doubt to the individual businesses. I can't speak for everyone, but I think most of them are doing the best they can. Buc-ee's is pretty big, but they still have to they can't just give beef sandwiches away. So they're probably dealing with stuff that we're dealing with, that, meat's just going through the roof right now. Maybe it'll come back down, maybe it won't. That thing you said about the fact that they they had like pickles and stuff on the sandwich. Did you say that?
They used to make them with pickles and onions on it, and now they have them like individually packaged, and you have to like request them. I feel like that may be a COVID thing where the people are just handling less stuff, and they're like compartmentalizing it, or maybe they just don't want the onion juices and the pickle juices sitting on the heat lamp for that amount of time or something. I really don't know what became of that, but I mean, it's a minor thing, but it's like a compounding thing too. At an establishment like yours, I can totally like understand supporting small business profit margins, but I can't imagine Buc-ee's profit margins being that hit by what's going on. They're a huge place, and they make hundreds of those sandwiches a day at each place. Like, I have a hard time justifying it at a bigger place like that. At a place like your family's restaurant, 100%. I'm on board with supporting small businesses, but it just I guess it rubs me a little the wrong way when a bigger place doesn't even make an announcement. They just arbitrarily up the price by almost $1. Because when I was getting it before, I'd be like, oh, hey, it's under $6. And now I buy it and I'm like, oh, hey, this is almost $7. Like 99 cents doesn't sound like much, but when you're looking at it as under 6 versus almost 7, like I can't justify it. I can't even quantify it properly, but that's the way my mind was working when I was looking at those prices today.
Yeah. I think a big red flag that I would look out for is like, if you see it, like if the portion's getting smaller. Like, I don't think, even if say for example, your prices are getting like really crazy, that doesn't mean I don't think you should cut back. Like, serve the same thing, be consistent.
Yeah.
But if you need to charge more to make a profit, like charge more for it.
Yeah.
But that's a red flag when you're like, you're charging more, you're getting less. That's going to really turn people off. People love big portions. People love feeling like they're getting their money's worth. And I've heard people complain just random places, not even barbecue, just like, oh, I used to go to that place, but their stuff started getting smaller and they started raising their prices and I didn't go back. And like, I get it. You want to get what you want for your money. And rich, I don't know anybody that's rich. Do you? Like, we're all kind of strapped for cash these days. And you want to spend it wisely. And you kind of, it gets frustrating when you feel like you're getting ripped off.
Do you mind if I ask how much a beef sandwich goes for at your place as opposed to something like maybe a pulled pork sandwich?
You may ask. I don't know off the top of my head, but guess what? I'm going to go to the menu and I'm going to look it up. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, like, my default is usually a brisket sandwich. I'm just a brisket kind of guy. But I didn't even look at, like, the turkey or the sausage or the pulled pork or anything like that. For all I know, those sandwiches may still be $5.99. It may not be something that happened across the board. It may only be the beef sandwiches that got raised.
Yeah. For some reason, I don't see beef sandwiches. Did I make a faux pas making this menu? Because I made this menu.
Uh-oh.
Did I not put it on here? I know just as an example, a pulled pork plate, which is like a just regular pulled pork on a plate with sauce on it, is $8.99. And that comes with 2 sides.
Okay.
Pulled beef plate is $10.99.
Okay.
That's a prime example of the difference. It's the same amount of meat, but you're paying more for the beef because it's beef.
For the beef.
Only because it's beef. It's the same thing we've been serving for years and years and years. Whether you get pork or chicken or beef, it's going to be the same amount with the two sides, but it's because it's beef, you're going to pay $2 more. It's the way it is.
Interesting. Well, I'm also trying to figure out exactly how much to budget because there's a chance I may actually get the opportunity to swing into Rob's BBQ on the side next month. So I'm starting to scout out the price ranges.
Interesting.
How much I need to spend when I'm on my little vacation next month. For those of you who don't know, I am taking my last class in grad school right now, and it finishes the second week of December. So sometime in December, I am planning a vacation down to Florida via Mississippi. So be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for maybe a pop-up Facebook Live or maybe just a live and in-person IPC episode happening sometime in December. So that's something to look forward to. And there's just other things to look forward to here on the show. We mentioned all the different possible episodes and discussions that we're going to have. You can obviously find previous episodes online on places like Fandom Empire. All of our previous episodes we've done here on YouTube are in a little subsection here on the Fandom Empire channel. We've also got episodes previously available on places like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. We're also on Castbox. That's how my brother listens to the show. And we're on ipcpodcast.podbean.com. We have swag available online at tpublic.com, TEE like t-shirt, tpublic.com/user/IPC podcast. And if you're interested in becoming a patron on the show, like Jesse and Joey and some other awesome people are, then you can hit us up at patreon.com, patreon.com/IPC podcast. Ben, I gotta say, man, this was a different format, but it was no less fun. In fact, if anything, it was awesome getting caught back up with you on sci-fi and pop culture, and it was just great to get back in the groove and get back in the swing of things. And I'm excited to be back. I think Matthias asked, please don't be a one-off episode where you just pop back in for a little while, Zach. I can assure you, buddy, I am back for a pretty decently long time. Because I'm working on that master's degree, I don't really know what's going to happen in 2022. I'm going to start applying for jobs, but I don't know what's going to happen until they happen. So until then, you can find me right here and find me online at ZACH The Voice on all social platforms.
Yep. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say welcome back. It's so good to have you back. It's so good to get back in the swing of things. And we had so much to talk about tonight. And this was a credit to you. This is a great idea you came up with of doing this rapid fire thing. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to do it again because we're kind of in a weird scenario here where we're doing the show bi-weekly now. It kind of works better with our schedules, but there seems to be more and more stuff coming out all the time. And it's hard to keep up with and kind of like delegate what we're going to talk about. We can only do an episode every other week.
Right.
So this actually opens the door to like us to like talk about a lot of things. We covered so much tonight.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many things that I want. I would love to do an episode on Shang-Chi. I would love to do an episode even on Internals or Dune or whatever. And of course we're going to do Spider-Man No Way Home eventually. Yep. There's so much other stuff, but this kind of gives us a way to kind of like talk it out. So as always, reach out to us on social media. Tell us what you thought. And what topics you want us to cover. Because Black Widow is something we haven't even talked about that. I haven't talked about Black Widow. It came out about like 3 months ago. I watched it and I haven't talked about it. So like,
wasn't it July?
I think it was. My God, it's been. How has it been so long?
July. So that's August, September, October, November. That was a third of the year ago, dude. That's old news now.
Oh, it feels like last month, man. This is not good this year, and Christmas is next month. Come on.
And
we got Book of Boba Fett. We got Hawkeye. What is happening?
Yep. See, we're gonna need another rapid fire episode in December just to talk about all of those things. But in the meantime,
Hawkeye talks next week.
Right. In the meantime, Jesse pops in on the chat saying, "You need to try the sausage. It's pretty good." Okay, starting to take a couple of notes here. I've kind of stumbled over where I was going with this. In between episodes, you can find us at IPC Podcast on Facebook and Twitter. We're also on Instagram, but I haven't been posting on there as regularly as I need to be. I'm just barely getting back into posting on my own Instagram page, so we'll get back to it eventually. But be sure to follow Fandom Empire as well, and check out the Fandom Empire Den on Facebook to keep up with all of the stuff that's going on here on this channel. And follow me at Zach the Voice on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't post a whole lot there. I'm also on Snapchat, but I really don't know how to use it. I'm part of like 2 group chats, and that's it.
That I don't know how to use Snapchat either. That's scary.
I'm not attractive enough for
just getting into TikTok. That's my.
I'm not attractive enough for Snapchat. That's my problem. So, yeah, go find me on those platforms. Go find us at IPC Podcast on different platforms, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah. Apologies for internet problems. Tonight. This was it happens, I guess. I'm trying to avoid it. I think I screwed up something tonight, but it's been mostly smooth on my end, so I hope it was good for you guys. But yeah, this was fun. This was a blast. I can't wait to come back in 2 weeks and talk about what we're ever going to talk about. And thanks to our producer Sean for staying up late and producing the show for us. And yeah.
Little birdie told a little birdie told me that he actually turned us loose for a little while and went upstairs and took a nap and then came back.
Well, can you blame him? Can you really blame him?
Nope. I mean, all you do is hit live and we go talking for like 2 hours and 15 minutes or something, and then
look, if I was sitting here and I wasn't talking, I would probably fall asleep. Okay, that's just being honest.
Yep. Well, I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Intergalactic Peace Coalition. So good to be back. Thank you to everyone that listened live. Thank you to everybody that listens on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Podbean, tunes in on the YouTube channel after the fact. We appreciate all of you, and we're looking forward to being back in a couple of weeks. But until then, hope you all have a great American Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on the flip. Good night, everyone.
We're still on, aren't we?
I think so. I'm just gonna leave the studio.
We're still live.
I'm just gonna
walk away.
I'm just gonna hit leave studio, and we'll edit this later.
What, are we still live? What? I'm the only one here. Oh goodness. I don't like being this big. I'm out of here.